Hi, guys.
Hello.
It is, well, actually, what is it like to be in this theatre where Heisenberg will be?
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's such an intimate theatre. It feels like you're really close to the stage. And yet it actually has quite a lot of seats in it, but it's really beautifully maintained.
It's an exquisite room. It's absolutely extraordinary. I'm completely pumping with adrenaline and excitement. Because I've not been in this auditorium since we committed to producing the play here. And I think it's going to be extraordinary. And I'd not realised how extraordinary it had the potential to be before I walked into this auditorium about 20 minutes ago.
I can't get over your chemistry together, even just in a room. Like you have a history together, correct?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, we were brought up about 2 or 3 streets away from each other, but we didn't know each other. We probably met, what was it you said, 2000? The year 2000?
Yeah, we
Maybe
met
a bit
in the year
earlier than that.
we met in the year 2000.
Okay, at the Royal Exchange in Manchester. And I really liked his writing. And then we worked together over many years, and it was quite relatively recently that we found out that actually we knew we went to which schools we went to. It was on either side of Stockport Road.
I went to the rough school, she went to the posh school.
And so that, but somebody asked us a question of, I don't know why, they were asking us about school, and you suddenly said, how did you get to school? And I went, well, I got on the bus outside Heaton Moor
Golf club.
Golf Club.
Yeah.
And
That's how posh she was. She lived by a golf club. I had to walk miles to get to the golf club. I dreamed of living near the
don't
golf
listen to
club.
him. And
Uphill both ways, right?
it turns out we got the same bus to school, and we waited at the same bus stop.
And then, when we had that realisation, I realised that I remembered her. And I was younger than her. I was like 14, spotty, adolescent idiot. Really, real scally. I wasn't really a scally, but compared to her, I was. But she was like this beautiful girl from the sixth form of the grammar school. And I remember secretly having a real crush on her. And then,
That went downhill, didn't it?
30 years later, that had all gone.
Well, and here you are putting on
2 kids from
Heisenberg.
Stockport. 2 kids from Stockport in
Yeah.
the West End. Come on.
Yeah, and we only
Talk
found
about-
this out after Simon was godfather to my daughter. So,
Yep.
I mean, we were really close, and then we found this out.
Talk about the certainty of randomness. I mean, like that is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
actually, that's
Exactly.
true, isn't it?
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit, like if someone doesn't know, and interesting, there's a long history from this play as well.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how it became to be that you had this idea for a show and what the show is about and where it's become.
Sure. What's important for me is that science is not something that's alien or strange or geeky or artificial or weird. It's the essence of what it is to be alive. And my relationship with science has changed a lot since my eldest son has grown up. And I've fallen in love with science through his fascination with it.
There's a lot of science in a lot of your work, though.
Yeah, because all the plays written since he started kicking around the edges of maths and science, I suddenly thought there's something about what it is to be alive in science and maths, and it's kind of inspired by him. You know, my other sons inspired me to write loads of plays about surfing and skateboarding that are about to be produced. Not really. No, good. You could do a good skateboard play. Brilliant. Anyway. It was a conversation with a friend of mine introduced me to the notion of the uncertainty principle. And its simplicity broke my heart and filled me with a sense of awe. And it basically says that on an atomic level, bear with me, this is the sciencey bit, on an atomic level, if you understand the precise whereabouts of any given particle, then it's impossible to successfully predict its trajectory or speed of movement. If you know where something is, you can never really know where it's going to go. If you understand the speed of movement or the trajectory of a particle, you never really know where it is. And when I heard this idea, what astonished me about it was that to a degree it felt like what it was to be alive. That if it's possible, I think, to really understand where somebody is, to really look at somebody closely, to really see them, to really know them, then it's much more likely they'll do something or go somewhere that will completely astonish you. And at the same time, if you're carefully watching where somebody's going or what somebody's doing, the likelihood is you've never properly seen them. And that paradox, I thought, was extraordinary as a means of interrogating what it was to be a human being. And I thought I'd write a play about that.
And what's incredible about that is that even though we can't see it on a tangible level in our tangible world, it means that stitched into the very fabric of the universe is this sense of uncertainty, this sense of unpredictability. It's not that we can't see it because we haven't got the right equipment, it just is the way of the universe. And humans find uncertainty and unpredictability really difficult to deal with. In fact, they're really about control, and about setting environments around them and teams of people around them, and everybody they're close to, they very much need to control, and they don't like to not know where they're going or what's going to happen to them in the next few years. And so these two are very particular characters in this play, possibly more set in their ways than most of us, and really quite frightened in lots of ways, and at a very particular place in their lives where they have controlled their environment, so much so. And yet through the meeting of each other and through the kind of journeying of that relationship, they start to realise sort of the secrets of life, even though they both feel like that they're at the end of their lives in different ways. And they realise that what they have to do is to basically let their shoulders down and stop controlling and go with the flow and allow what is to happen, and to be themselves and to be honest about themselves in the throes of that, which is very, very difficult. And when they do that, they realise, oh my God, this is the way to live.
It's seemingly so perfect that you've taken a sort of scientific element and turned it into a real theatrical show, because in a lot of ways what you're speaking about is the experience we have in the theater every time you see a show. It's just you're not really sure what's going to happen.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly, and that was really exciting to me when I heard about the principle. I thought not only is life like that, but theatre's like that. And theatre exists in the spaces that we create on the stage and in the auditorium. I think that's why I'm so excited sitting in the auditorium, is I can imagine what's going to happen on that stage and how it's going to affect the audience here, and how thrilling that has the potential to be.
And Marianne, why did you choose Heisenberg to be the show that you launch your new production company with, the fabulous Chris Harper? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
I suppose in lots of ways it was a no-brainer, and also in lots of ways it was a big risk, and that both of those things felt like they were really important to the company. I've worked with Simon more than any other writer. I feel like I understand his writing to my very core, and it's incredibly profound for me. Not all of his writing, only the ones that I do. And I knew that I wanted to choose plays where there were great female protagonists, really great chances for actresses. And I also felt like, oh my God, here we are going into the commercial world. But I really wanted to do something that was as risky, as dangerous, as much about quality as anything that I'd ever done at the National. So although some people could say, maybe we should have done a classic play that has already a big fan base because we're going into the commercial world, we felt like we wanted to do a new play. We felt we wanted to make a new statement. And Simon and this amazing female character just felt like it fit the bill.
Well, and female character, oh my God, Marie-Duff. And then, of course, Kenneth, talk about your amazing cast.
It's hard to articulate what it's like to be a writer and to write words with the hope that somebody will speak them, and then to hear the actors of that caliber. Ken Cranham, who was Pinter's actor, who was Edward Bond's actor, who's a colossus of British theatre, who's spoken some of the finest words that, playwrights in the last century have written. To have him speak my words, it's astonishing to me. And Anne-Marie is the most beautifully alive, alert, provocative, dangerous, sexy actress that I've seen on stage for years. Watching her this month at the National Theatre, she can hold a theatre in the palm of her hand and create complete magic. And what's going to happen when those two come together, I think, is just going to be thrilling.
Yeah, there are two things that I find really exciting about directing in the theatre. One is to make massive visual statements and to do really impossibly challenging plays, which I seem to have done quite a lot of. And the other is to pursue the craft of excellence in acting. Acting is really a skill and a craft that you never stop learning about. And so to work with two really established, brilliantly accomplished and experienced actors together, and just for the play to be about the two of them, so we're just concentrating on the finery of what's going on between them and the way that they're saying the text. It's just luxurious.
It's, I think it's really interesting that you have the two characters who are from two different countries, and the show is set in two different countries, and the play's journey itself actually has had the two different country journey. Is that, I mean, how do you feel about that, especially for having been...
I mean, we had a great, Mark Broka's production for Manhattan Theatre Club that was produced on Broadway was something that I was massively proud of and remember with just love. And Denis Arndt, who was making his Broadway debut aged 81 and then was Tony nominated for his Broadway debut. And Mary Louise Parker, they're just great, gorgeous actors. So I'm proud of that production and proud of the life it's had. But what's thrilling is this production is going to be so different. Whereas the Broadway production was defined by its spareness and its sparseness, and there was a gesture about sitting in a Broadway theatre, and there was just two actors, I thought was really radical. But in this production, I think the work that Bonnie Christie, the designer's done, that Paulie Constable, the lighting designer's doing, the work of Niels Fram, the work of Stephen Hoggett, I think they're going to release the balletic and the extraordinary within a play which on the surface might seem quite rooted in just how people are. And the artists of that calibre are releasing the extraordinary within people who we might perceive as being ordinary. I think both productions in their way have released a story that crosses the Atlantic Ocean. I find that very moving.
It's so awesome. And Marianne, this is not just a two-hander. You've got choreography, you've got original score. I mean, like, tell me a little bit about this.
Well, I suppose Bonnie Christie, the designer, and I, when we were talking about it, we felt like it was not just about realism. It wasn't just two people in a particular location. It felt like it had kind of almost spiritual undertones or religious undertones or a sense of a parable or a kind of a weird, extraordinary, abstract poem. And that constantly the audience should be kept guessing, where are they, what's going to happen next, just as much as they're guessing, what am I doing, why am I doing it, why are you doing that, how's that affecting me, this is all surprising me. And so we wanted to put it in an environment without giving too much away, which was scientific, but also like looking at people in a very spare gallery. You know, like you were either looking at them through a microscope and seeing them as specimens, or you were looking at them in this beautiful white cube gallery, and that the gallery changed and morphed its shape around them just as their worlds change and morph around them. So that you're constantly aware of the realism because of the way that they're acting, but also the multitude of layers of spirituality and parallels and the science and all the other things that are sort of pointed at in the writing that you could possibly lose sight of if you didn't try and put it in that kind of set and design.
That I'm so excited. The final question is about theatre in general. For Official London Theatre, the Society of London Theatre, we're asking theatre makers what theatre is to them and why it is so important for London and London theatre. So could you tell me, what is theatre to you?
Oh, wow, my crikey, gosh.
That's a really big question.
It is.
It's a really important question.
It's important. It's our job.
I think theatre is vital to me. I keep thinking that I should move away from it, and I keep being drawn back. To me, it's about how we commune in the idea of being human, and what does it really mean to be alive and to live, which I think is a really, really tough job, actually, to live. And when you're brought together in an environment with other people, and you're aware that there are other people there watching and sharing in something with you, and then you participate in the dream of the stories that are happening on stage, you are together trying to come to a place of understanding what's happening to those characters on stage. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to the people that you're sitting with? What does that mean for tonight? What will that mean for tomorrow night? It's very much an ephemeral art form that makes it really frustrating, but also incredibly beautiful, because it can blossom into the most wonderful gem. And talk about the uncertainty principle, which is about, in your play, about living in the moment and enjoying the moment and living for now and going with it, then that's what theatre absolutely does and can celebrate it when it's good.
Amazing, amazing. What about you, fine sir?
Fuck. Wow. God, you do have problems with public speaking, don't you? I think we're living at a time where just being in the same room as somebody else is increasingly difficult. And I'm not saying this judgmentally, because there's nobody more addicted to Twitter than me. There's nobody more addicted to checking emails. Or, you know, we carry the universe around in our pockets now. We carry all of world knowledge in our pockets. We no longer need to wonder about anything, because as soon as we wonder about anything, we can access all information. I think that at the heart of a city built on the transactions of money, there should be an art form, and it's fundamental to London theatre. You just go on any escalator in London, you know, it's all dominated by the theatre that's happening here. The notion that fundamental to a city that is built on the transactions of technology and information and capital and money is the possibility that people who don't know each other can come together for an evening and sit next to each other and look for a while in the same direction as the strangers they're engaging with, and engage with the same story as them. And that in their same room, there are artists of the greatest caliber committing to telling a story, to sharing a dream, to engaging an imagination. And that if we commit to that, we make ourselves better than we do in the isolation brought about by our technology. I think that's what theatre is to me. It's the possibility of that magic, that you share an experience with a stranger, that you come and sit in a row, you know, seats like this. You sit next to somebody you've never met before, and for a while you share the same experience, and the experience is an experience of story. There's no better way to crystallise the experience of what it is to be human than in the theatre. And that is, I think, actually, secretly, I think it's what makes London the best city in the world, because it remains, despite what happens politically, despite what happens economically, it remains a city built entirely on its theatre.
Well done. Well said, you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Break a leg. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Really appreciate it.
You're going to edit out the swear words.